Unfortunately, she passed away not long ago, a few years ago. Actually, she had agreed, I'd asked her, and she had agreed to come to South Africa, but then she passed away. So anyway, they were having a sort of heated debate, verging on an argument about what's the difference? Is there a difference between Krishna and Balaram? And Madhu Dvisa Prabhu said, there's no difference. There's just no difference. There's just this difference in color, but in terms of who they are and what they are, there's no difference at all. They both have the 64 qualities, not just the 60 that other forms of the Lord have. And yeah, they're just the same. That's what he was saying. But Mother Yamuna was saying, no, there is a difference, significant difference in that Krishna is the only enjoyer of Srimati Radharani. That's a difference. Balaram is not like that. But anyway, it was going back and forth. And one other devotee, Tamal Krishna Goswami, he was hearing this and he decided, let's go and ask Srila Prabhupada. So they went to Prabhupada, the three of them. And Tamal Krishna Goswami, he spoke for them both. And he said, Srila Prabhupada, this is the matter under discussion. And Madhu Dvisa Prabhu says, Krishna and Balaram, they're the same. There's a difference in color, but it doesn't matter. They're the same. Prabhupada said, he's right. And then Tamal Krishna Goswami said, but Yamuna, Mother Yamuna says, there is a difference because Krishna's the only enjoyer of Radharani. That's a difference. Prabhupada said, she's right. And Tamal Krishna Goswami said, Srila Prabhupada, they can't both be right. And Prabhupada said, you're right. And Tamal Krishna Goswami said, well, Prabhupada, how can we understand this? And Srila Prabhupada said, you decide. In other words, don't worry about it. Just chant Hare Krishna and be happy and be very happy. Yeah, so Krishna Balaram. Lord Balaram's appearance day is today, and Lord Krishna's next week, Friday. Yeah, such wonderful, wonderful persons. And the mood of Lord Balaram, he's actually in the mood of a servant of Krishna. He's in the mood of a servant. Srila Jiva Goswami, one of our great acharyas, he says that if you ask Krishna, who is God, Krishna points to himself, not me, but to himself. And Krishna says, me. And if you ask Lord Balaram, who is God, Lord Balaram says, Krishna. Because his mood is like that, servant. And then if you ask Lord Balaram, well, who are you then? Then he says, I'm a servant of Krishna. This is Lord Balaram. Truly amazing person. So he appears every time Lord Krishna appears in all his different incarnations. For example, when Lord Krishna came as Lord Ram, then Lord Balaram came as Lord Lakshman. And at that time, of course, Lakshman was the younger brother. And Lord Ram was the older brother. But of course we know, at least if we're a little familiar with the pastimes, that when they came as Krishna and Balaram, then Balaram was the older brother, and Krishna was the younger brother. So what happened in between? Ram was older. Ram is Krishna. He was older. Balaram, Lord Lakshman, was younger. Then next time, Krishna's younger and Balaram's older. Well, I'm going to read a couple of verses here, like I said, from actually Chaitanya Charitamrita. What are they? Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela, chapter 5, verse 150, 151, and 152. Ramira Charitra Sabha, Dukyara Karan, Swatantra Lilaya Dukkha, Sahena Lakshmana. The activities of Lord Ram were full of suffering, but Lakshman of his own accord tolerated that suffering. Nisheda karite nare, yate chotabai, maunadari rahe Lakshman, mane dukkha pai. As a younger brother, he could not stop Lord Ram from his resolution, and so he remained silent, although unhappy in his mind. Krishna avatare jeshta hayala sevarkaran. Krishna ke karaila nana sukha asvadan. When Lord Krishna appeared, then he, Balaram, became his elder brother to serve him to his heart's content and make him enjoy all sorts of happiness. Well, you know what happened though, Ram and Lakshman, was that Lakshman was the younger brother, and Lord Ram made a few decisions which Lakshman did not agree with, and actually they led to serious trouble for Ram and Lakshman, like the idea of chasing, what's his name? Marichi, when he was in the form of like a mystical little deer. Lord Ram insisted on catching it, running after it and catching it. But Lakshman said, no, don't go. There's something wrong here. Don't go, don't chase after it. Something will happen. And sure enough, Ravana came and kidnapped Sita. And Lakshman was thinking, he didn't say anything because he was the younger brother, and younger brothers, they're not really allowed to say anything. You know, if the older brother makes a bit of a blunder. So Lakshman didn't say anything, but he thought, what sort of decision was that? Look at where this has got us. Oh my gosh, this is ridiculous. But I can't do anything. I'm the younger brother. But he thought, next time, I got to be the older brother, and I'll sort things out properly. And then later, when they rescued Sita, then Lord Ram wanted her to walk through fire to prove her purity. And Lakshman said, nobody questions her purity. There's no need to do this. There's no need. And Ram said, well, it would be better. And Lakshman said, listen, no one agrees with you. No one is going to be willing to build the fire. And Ram said, Lakshman, someone is going to build the fire. You are going to. And Lakshman couldn't say anything. But he just thought, what sort of decision was that? Come on. And eventually Ram wanted Sita banished. And again Lakshman told Ram, there's no need to do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. It's terrible. And anyway, no one will agree to just take her to the forest and just leave her there. No one will agree. So forget it. And Ram said, Lakshman, someone will agree to take her. You will. And he had to do it because he was the younger brother. But then that was the third time. And third time lucky or whatever. And Lakshman decided, right, that's it. Next time I am going to be the older brother. And I'll make sure things are just, organized properly. So next time he came as Lord Balaram. And that was his mood. His mood, it's a mixture of moods. He has a mood of a servant, I mentioned. He's got that mood. Just looking after Krishna, taking care, making sure he's all right. But then he's also got the mood of the older brother, which older brother is actually parental rasa. It's parental. It's not like friendly or, in terms of the 5 main rasas. It's parental. Older brother is parental. So, he was really, in his senior position, watching out for Lord Krishna. And actually in many ways, Lord Balaram serves Lord Krishna. Listen to this. Lord Balaram, in the spiritual world, he expands himself as the spiritual world. He's maintaining, supporting at least, supporting the spiritual world in Goloka Vrindavan. Then in Vaikuntha, he's supporting the whole realm. The whole realm he's supporting as a service. And then there's the material world. Lord Balaram, he expands in Goloka as Sankarshan of what Srila Prabhupada calls the first quadruple expansion of Sankarshan, Vasudeva, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. Sankarshan is the first. And then he expands himself as in the second quadruple, which is the 4 of them, and there he's called Mahasankarshan. But there's also a Vasudeva, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. And they're all coming from Balaram via Sankarshan, then via Mahasankarshan. And they're ruling the Vaikuntha realm. And then devotees, believe it or not, from Mahasankarshan, but you can say from Balaram. From Balaram comes Mahavishnu. Mahavishnu is a form of Balaram. And Mahavishnu, he is the master of the material realm. And then he expands into Garbhodakshaya Vishnu in every universe. And he expands into Kshirodakshaya Vishnu in every atom of the creation, in our hearts. But, talk about being in control of things. He's in every atom. You couldn't be on top of things more than that. But they're forms of Lord Balaram, actually. And he's deliberately expanding like this so he can serve Krishna, to help Krishna in the different aspects of his pastimes. It's really amazing. So Srila Jiva Goswami says that there is practically nothing which Lord Balaram is not. There's practically nothing, because in his mood of service, he's taking up all these roles and different activities. Then, listen to this, devotees. Lord Balaram is Krishna's house. Any, palace, house Krishna lives in, it's a form of Balaram. Balaram is Krishna's bed. He's Krishna's pillow. He's Krishna's fan. He's Krishna's umbrella. He is Krishna's sandals. Whenever you see, the sandals of the Lord on the altar, like in Radharadhanath temple or in the Nitai Gaurahari temple, just know that's Balaram. Yeah, that's Balaram. Then he is, devotees, he is Krishna's clothes. Whatever clothes you see Krishna wearing, they're forms of Balaram. Isn't that amazing? His mood of service is literally unlimited. Then he is Krishna's ornaments and jewelry. Yeah. He is Krishna's sitting place. Either a throne like in one of the palaces or a big cushion in a more informal type of place. He is Krishna's weapons whenever Krishna fights against some demon. Yeah, his weapons are forms of Lord Balaram. So, yeah, it's pretty incredible. And therefore, one of his nicknames is, he's known as Shesha. Shesha means paraphernalia. Different sort of belongings which are used in intimate types of ways, like personal paraphernalia, Shesha. And of course, he is Ananta Shesha too. Yeah, he's Ananta Shesha. And he appears in the different rasas. All these different things I mentioned, his bed, his Krishna's pillow and shoes and whatnot. They're forms of Balaram, but in Shanta rasa, the neutral rasa, then Balaram himself is in servitude and particularly in a parental mood. In the conjugal rasa, Lord Balaram is a Nanga Manjari. Srimati Radharani's younger sister. That's Balaram. So like Jiva Goswami says, there's practically nothing which Lord Balaram is not in the service of Krishna. And we should try and appreciate that. We should try and appreciate that. Because, to be a servant, well, we know Lord Chaitanya, Lord Krishna became Lord Chaitanya because he wanted to experience what it's like to be one of his own servants. When he returned 5,000 years ago to Goloka Vrindavan, Krishna was thinking how wonderful it was. All the devotees were serving me and doing things for me and just so beautifully and wonderfully. I was enjoying it so much. But then he realized that actually some of these devotees, as they were serving me in different ways and giving me so much enjoyment and happiness, they were even happier than me by serving me than I was by being served by them. And Krishna went deep into thought. And he thought of one gopi. She was serving me so nicely. Actually, she was 5 times happier than me. And Krishna thought, wow, It was a wow moment for Krishna. And then some other gopi, she was 20 times happier than me by serving me. Wow. And another one was 100 times happier than me. And another one was 200 times. And another one, devotees, was 1,000 times. And by this time, Krishna's head was spinning completely. And then he finally, another one was 10,000 times. And then finally came to Srimati Radharani. And analyzing, he understood Srimati Radharani was 10 million times happier than him by serving him. And when Krishna realized that, Krishna thought that that's it. I've had enough of this being God. I'm going to become a devotee. That's where the nectar is. You can't stop me. So he became Lord Chaitanya. It's true. It's actually, this is how it's described in Chaitanya Charitamrita. I mean, not that he abandoned his role as God, but he really got into being a devotee. And he's permanently a devotee as Lord Chaitanya. It's one of his eternal forms. But devotees, please note, Lord Balaram understood that point long before Krishna. Oh yes, long before. Lord Balaram understood the nectar is in being a devotee, in serving and not in being served. That's where the nectar is. And therefore, Lord Balaram, this is just one point, but there are many where he displays, like deep insight, the deepest insight. So therefore, Lord Balaram is referred to by our acharyas as the crest jewel of the intelligent. He's the crest jewel of the intelligent. And his mood is service. That's sort of the bottom line of his intelligence. And just one other little thing about a particular service that he does. I'm sure many of you, maybe all of you, have seen a picture. It's a popular type of picture of Lord Krishna, little baby Lord Krishna, little Lord Krishna. He is lying on a banyan leaf, a big size leaf, small boy on big leaf, and he's floating. The leaf is floating, and he's on the leaf, and they're floating. And Lord Krishna is sucking one of his big toes. You're familiar with that? Have you seen that, Shreya? You saw? Anyway, if you haven't, you better see it. Yeah, so there's Krishna just lying on his back, sucking one of his big toes, and life is good. And he's floating around. And a devotee asked him, "My Lord, why are you sucking your toe?" And Krishna said, the thing is, I have heard so many times, my devotees say my lotus feet are very sweet. And I just decided I want to try it for myself. And so I'm sucking my big toe. And I can confirm that my feet are very sweet, actually. And so Krishna floated off on the banyan leaf, continuing to suck his toe. Devotees, I think it's Srila Jiva Goswami explains that banyan leaf is Lord Balaram. He's got to be there. If there's service to be done, he's there. He's there. So that's Balaram. He's just incredible person. He's a most wonderful person. And there are different pastimes. There are, different pastimes. Different pastimes in which Lord Balaram's amazing nature and personality and just who he is, it all comes out. Just one, it's kind of like a philosophical point, you could say, but I mentioned right at the beginning how Lord Balaram, first expansion of Krishna, he's the closest of all the forms of the Lord. He's the closest. He's the first expansion, not the second. He's the first. And then there's Radharani. She is part of Krishna. His Hladani Shakti, Krishna's capacity to enjoy pleasure. They are the two closest people to Krishna. Therefore, both Balaram and Srimati Radharani are addressed, referred to sometimes as the original spiritual master, because they're so close. They know Krishna. They know Krishna. And therefore, they can tell you about Krishna and help you understand Krishna and come closer to Krishna. So both of them, there's no contradiction actually. There's no contradiction. They're both the original spiritual master. So, there's a number of pastimes in Srimad Bhagavatam in which Balaram's amazing, wonderful nature is shown. For example, devotees, the pastime of the killing of Dhenukasura. You might be familiar with that. Dhenukasura was in the form of a donkey. Yeah. Is there anyone here who could just demonstrate quickly a donkey sound? Yeah. Not like that. Come on. He was a serious donkey. It's all right. Don't worry about it. And then there's Pralambasura. He's another nasty demon, really nasty guy. There was the Dvivida gorilla. He's not in Vrindavan. He's while Krishna and Balaram were in Dwaraka. And, Dvivida gorilla, boy, he is a special case. Do you know that Dvivida gorilla was around and participated in the pastimes of Lord Ram? And he was a devotee. And there are the prayers of Dvivida. Yeah. But then he got some bad association. And through bad association, he didn't just get a bit mixed up or a bit confused or something like that. He became a demon. Dvivida gorilla, and he was killed by Lord Balaram. Then Lord Balaram dragged Hastinapur almost into the Yamuna. He killed Rukmi, the brother of Rukmini. All these things, they're in Srimad Bhagavatam. He killed Romahashana Sutta. What else did he do? He visited Vrindavan after he and Krishna had left Vrindavan, so sometime afterwards, then Balaram went back to remind them of Krishna. These are all pastimes of Balaram, important and wonderful pastimes. But I thought I'd tell you one pastime this evening. It's really wonderful. It's one of my favorites. It's from Brihad Bhagavatamrita, actually, from the 6th chapter of the second part, when the hero or the central character, Gopakumar, he's been trying or step by step, he's been going back to Godhead. He's been on the way. And when you get to chapter 6, he arrives in Goloka Vrindavan. He's there. But he doesn't know. It's a long story, of course. He doesn't know where he is. But he thinks, wow, could it be Goloka Vrindavan? So he asks one elderly devotee who just happened to be walking by. There was one palace nearby, and he asked that devotee, whose palace is that? And that elderly devotee said, that is the palace of the father of Sri Nandanandan, Krishna. And Gopakumar understood, it is Goloka Vrindavan. I've actually made it. I've arrived in Goloka Vrindavan. So it was kind of mid-afternoon, something like that. Krishna was still out with the cowherd boys, herding the cows out in the fields and the forests. So, but then little time passed, maybe an hour or so, and then the time was approaching for Lord Krishna to return, and Balarama and the cows and cowherd boys. So everyone, the devotees, Brijbasis, started coming out of their houses, getting ready, getting arti paraphernalia ready, and just getting ready to greet Krishna on his return. And then they saw in the distance a dust cloud coming closer, being kicked up by the hoofs of the cows. And they understood, he's coming. Krishna's coming. So everyone's now, they're all there, they're ready. And then suddenly they saw Krishna. And Gopakumar saw Krishna. And Krishna saw Gopakumar. They saw each other from a little distance, maybe 100 meters or something along those lines, a little distance. They saw each other, and they just both became stunned completely. Gopakumar has been away for a long time in the material world, but now, he became a devotee, he went back to Godhead. So Krishna sees Gopakumar sees Krishna. They run to meet each other in between the village, the people of the village, and the cowherd boys and the cows. They run and they meet each other in the middle, and they embrace each other. And Krishna asks Gopakumar, where have you been? I haven't seen you for such a long time. Anyone, it's an esoteric point, but anyone who thinks we were not in the kingdom of God before we fell down to Santon, should take note of this point, because Krishna asks him, where have you been? I haven't seen you for such a long time. And then suddenly, they're embracing each other. Suddenly Krishna faints on the ground. He's just too overwhelmed in ecstasy, meeting his long-lost, very dear devotee after such a long time. So there's Gopakumar. He's standing there, doesn't know what to do. Did I do it? How did it happen? But wow, Krishna, what's wrong? And now all the Brijbasis and everybody else, they gather there, and they see there's Krishna, completely unconscious. They can't even see if he's breathing or not. And someone asks, who did that to our beloved Krishna? Who did that? And some of the devotees say, we don't know. But one of them points to Gopakumar and says, "It was him." And they all start gathering around Gopakumar. And one of them says, "Who is he?" Because they haven't seen him. They've forgotten. Krishna didn't forget, but they forgot. And so, yeah, who is he? Who is this one? And the others say, "Oh, we don't know." One of them says, "I think he's a servant of Kamsa." So they gather around Gopakumar, and they're going to kill him, actually. You did this to our Krishna. You did this. So Gopakumar, from the absolute maximum ecstasy, meeting Krishna again, now total devastation, complete. They're going to kill me in Goloka Vrindavan. Yeah, well, nothing's impossible in Goloka Vrindavan, actually. So then, don't forget Balaram. Balaram stepped in, because he's the crest jewel of the intelligent. And Balaram, he took Gopakumar by the hand. They're standing. Krishna's lying, still unconscious. And he pulled Gopakumar down right next to Krishna and got him to sit like cross-legged right by Krishna's head. And he put Krishna's head on Gopakumar's lap. Then Lord Balaram took Gopakumar's hand and got him to stroke Krishna's head. But Balaram's doing it until Gopakumar got the idea. Oh, okay. And now he's stroking Krishna's head. And then after a minute or two, Krishna comes back to consciousness. And everyone is so happy. And they start asking, "Who saved our Krishna? Who was it? Who was the wonderful person?" And they point to Gopakumar again. "It was him. He saved our Krishna. Oh, our hero!" So you get the idea. The topmost ecstasy to total devastation and back to ecstasy. Such is life in Goloka Vrindavan, actually. But Lord Balaram, he's just amazing. And he did all that as a service. He could have done it himself. But he wanted to help Gopakumar, who's a devotee, who's like a long-lost devotee. So that's a nice pastime of Krishna and Balaram. And like I said, there's many. I mean, we could spend quite a period of time just talking about the pastimes of Lord Balaram. But we must also remember Lord Balaram. He descends as Lord Nityananda. Again, Lord Nityananda is the older brother. But this time, he's really the older brother. I mean, he's like 20 years older than Lord Chaitanya. Because even though Balaram was there to look after Krishna, and, he was very attentive and did a very good job, but there were times when things got out of hand, and even Balaram couldn't save the day. Like when the Kaliya serpent grabbed Krishna, if you know that story. Kaliya serpent was in the middle of the Yamuna, poisoning the Yamuna and all the trees and so on. So Krishna swam out to punish the Kaliya serpent, but the Kaliya serpent grabbed him and held him for hours. For hours. Yeah. But, you might say, well, why didn't Balaram step in? because he wasn't there. Because that pastime took place on Lord Balaram's appearance day, today. Therefore, Balaram was at home with his mother having a party. And, later when everything got sorted out and the Kaliya serpent got defeated, everyone was talking about it. Wow, how did that happen? Why did that happen? And then some of the devotees said, you know why that happened? How that happened? It was because Balaram was not there. If he had been there, it wouldn't have happened. He would have stopped it. And there were some other incidents also where Lord Balaram intervened to help Krishna out. So therefore, at the end of those Leelas, Lord Balaram thinking, okay, next time, right, Gauratai, here we come. Next time though, I'm going to really be the older brother, and then no one can tell me anything. Yeah. That pastime's amazing. If we had time, we'd tell you the whole pastime. It's just amazing. But Lord Balaram serving Krishna in so many ways. So we should take shelter of Lord Balaram. Particularly today, we should take shelter of Lord Balaram. But just generally, we should take shelter of Lord Balaram. That Lord Balaram, you are the topmost servant, the most intimate servant, the most expert servant of our dear Lord Krishna. So please help me. I'd like to be a good servant, but, I have a few shortcomings. So you please help me to become a proper servant. Teach me how to become a proper servant of our beloved Lord Krishna. And Balaram will be happy. He'll be very happy because that's what he does. He helps. Either he helps Krishna or he helps the devotees serve Krishna. This is Lord Balaram. Shri Baladev J.K. Shri Baladev J.K. Shri Baladev J.K. Shri Shri Krishna Balaram K. Shri Shri Krishna Balaram K. Shri Shri Krishna Balaram K. Gaur Premanande. Okay, devotees. Hare Krishna. Let us carry on with the program. Hari Bol.
His Holiness Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. So thank you very much, devotees. Thank you very much, Maharaj, for the wonderful class. Maharaj, if you don't mind, there's a few announcements we need to make. So devotees, thank you very much for coming through to ISKCON Santon. The next part of our program, we are going to have some kirtan and we'll have some arti. But before we get there, a program of this nature is not something that is very easy to conduct. So we have a few appreciations that we'd like to offer for the devotees that have come forward to assist us to make this happen. We'd like to thank the deco team led by Atish and Shahil Prabhu for the wonderful deco that you see here and the altar that they have set up inside very shortly. We'd also like to thank the Abhishek team led by, performed by Vibhu Chaitanya Prabhu, Dwarika Desh Prabhu and Indra Chaitanya Prabhu. We'd like to thank our sponsors for the various different contributions that they have offered us. So the Lakshmi that they've provided, some devotees have provided us with Boga, and also they have provided us with their time as well, time to assist with all of the logistics support and the cooking that was required. So we'd like to thank these devotees. Today's sponsor, as for Take Care of Srila Prabhupada, was sponsored by Dana Lachi and Shikhar Maharaj. Let's give them a great big Hari Hari Bol. So we'd also like to thank the cooks for today. It's been a busy day in the kitchen. There were many devotees and still so many that are cooking right now. So we'd like to thank the team consisting of Madhurika Priya, Madhurya Mataji, Gangotri Mataji, Pooja, Mukesh, Minali Mataji, and a little bit of Sadhu Sankar. Let's thank these devotees. Hari Hari Bol. So devotees, if you haven't noticed, we have a book table and some mithai that is also available for you. If you would like, for only 100 rands, you will have the opportunity to stress test your arteries. Okay? So if you're thinking about a midnight snack and something to sweeten the deal,